Hey guys, what's up? It is Ripe again, back with more stories about customers pretending to know the owner of a business and then getting embarrassed in front of everyone. Let's get started. The first one is titled, "Customer pretends to be the owner's wife and tries to fire me, she gets blacklisted from food delivery." If you have ever worked fast food or retail, I am sure that you have experienced a Karen or two in your lifetime. Dealing with these kinds of people is not fun at all, and to be quite honest, most of us don't get paid enough to deal with them. I completely understand that we are not perfect, and yes, sometimes we mess up a customer's order. However, I'm talking about the Karens that will find absolutely anything to complain about or try and get free stuff for a ridiculous reason. I live in a pretty small town though, and I recently had a Karen experience like no other. Although I'm not a fan of living in a small town where everyone knows each other, it actually worked out in my favor in this situation. So anyway, I work at a fast food chain, and of course working in fast food I have experienced many Karens even in a small town. However, this Karen in particular has been notorious for coming in and finding something wrong with her order every time. For example, one time she complained to corporate because she ordered a plain cheeseburger and was upset that there was cheese on it. Seriously, I cannot make this up. Plain means nothing, and then just order a hamburger, miss. Anyways, during the pandemic we had not seen her for a while. Of course, during this time no one was allowed in the store. So we had someone at the door with a tablet taking orders because it was only carried out mobile orders and phone orders. It's also important to this story to mention that our location was a franchise, so we had an owner, but we did not own the building. The person who owned the lot owned the building, but my boss owned the business, if that makes sense. So one day, while it is slow, I needed to use a restroom. Because it was slow during this time, like many businesses experienced during the pandemic, there was usually only a few of us working, and I was the only one working the front or the takeout window/door, if you will. Anyways, I came back and noticed that someone had moved the table blocking the door and was now standing in line looking at the menu as if they were going to order. And guess who it was? Yep, the Karen I was talking about earlier. I had politely asked her to step outside, as we were not allowed to have anyone inside per pandemic rules and regulations. And well, she did not take that so well. "Karen, oh, do you not know who I am? I am allowed in here." Me, who is now very confused. "I'm sorry? No?" "Karen, I'm the owner's wife. Just take my order. I'm allowed to be in here." Now, obviously, I know she is full of it because the owner would not make his wife pay for food. I have also seen this Karen here several times before while my boss was here, and not once did they acknowledge each other. And not just that, but I have met the owner's actual wife, and she was extremely sweet and polite, the complete opposite of this woman. And so I start having fun messing with the Karen. Was it wrong of me? Maybe. Me? Ma'am, I don't usually like to argue with customers, but you are not the owner's wife. We have all met the owner's actual wife, and now if you wanna step outside, I can take your order and get you your food. Karen, well, aren't you a rude little douchebag? I cannot believe my husband hires people like you. By now, I am internally rolling my eyes. I physically rolled my eyes too, because right after this, Karen freaked out and said, "I'm going to call my husband right now and get you fired." I told her that I would love if she would do that, and that I would call my actual boss to tell him that his wife was here. Now, I would like to say that I've never argued with a customer before, but Karen was being so rude from the get-go. We had rules we had to follow, and we would actually get in trouble with the town by allowing customers inside our establishment. Anyways, she proceeds to call someone, or at least pretends to call someone. She then pretends to hang up the phone and says that I am now fired because her husband won't tolerate me treating her that way. And honestly, if my life was a movie, this was the perfect moment, because right as she said that, my boss pulls up into the parking lot with the landlord. They were fairly good friends. As my boss gets out of his car and can tell that there is tension, he asks what is going on. I let him know that his lovely wife has fired me and I can no longer work here as I am no longer an employee. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic, but come on, this lady was setting herself up for it. I work a fast food job and you want to yell at me and belittle me because I'm trying to follow the rules? Anyways, the boss tells the lady that she needs to leave now because she is technically harassing his employees and that she was not his wife. Karen has the balls to try and backtrack her story and say that she is the owner of the building. Ha, Karen, you still screwed yourself. The landlord butts in and says that she needs to leave the property or he will report her for trespassing. Karen eventually ends up leaving, and while talking to my boss about the whole incident, I found out that she has been pulling the same kind of stunt at other places. She tried it at several local places, and when they called her out, she thought she could get away with it at a fast food chain. It has been months since this incident and now several restaurants in our small town refused service to her and blacklisted her from delivery as well. Sometimes I think Karens will never learn. And yeah, Ripe Stars, if you ever had any encounters with any sort of aggressive entitled Karens or other awful people, then please feel free to share your own stories on r/Ripe Stories on Reddit, where there is a good chance that I will read your story in a future video. Thank you so much in advance. The next one is titled, Nope, You Cannot Park Here. I currently work at a school as a trainee teacher. Our school has 2 yards, one in the middle of the buildings and one in the front. The one in front has some grass and benches, and the oldest classes can use it as their schoolyard during breaks, while the younger can stay on the inside yard. The outside yard is next to the driveway of the school, where firefighters or ambulances drive through to get to the entrance. One teacher is always present in each yard during breaks in case someone gets hurt or anything. That day, this teacher present in the outside yard was me. Also, necessary side note, public school buildings and the property they are on are all owned by the country here. There is no public school on private property, and there are very few private schools here, and they have big signs telling you that they are a private school. The break had almost ended when a really fancy car pulls up and parks right in the driveway. Despite 5 signs telling you that it is forbidden to park there, think something like Porsche or Jaguar, not quite sure which exact type of car it was. I go over to inform the driver that he cannot even let his car stand there while he is sitting in it, he needs to move it ASAP. The driver gets out of the car, mid-30s probably, wearing an expensive suit, looks really annoyed. I explain everything and he just laughs at me and says, "What do you know? You're a schoolgirl. I know the owner of the property. He said I could park here." Now, I am quite young, but still about 10 years older than the pupils I'm supervising there, so that was weird. But here is the convo. Me? I'm sorry, sir, but I'm not a schoolgirl. I'm a teacher here, and I cannot imagine, head of our country's name, to have allowed you to park here. It is against the law. Driver, are you stupid? I meant the headmaster. He did not know that the headmaster's office is on the ground floor facing the yard, and he likes to work with his windows open. Me yelling, "Mister!" Headmaster's name. Headmaster looking out the window. Yes? Me? Did you allow this guy to park here? The bell rings and the pupils reluctantly go back to their classes. I don't have a class after break, so I am relaxed. The headmaster, he's a pretty cool guy, just jumps out his window about 1 meter above the ground and comes over. Me? He says he knows you and you allowed him to park here. Headmaster, what? That's insane. It is strictly forbidden to park here. Also, I've never seen him before. Driver, okay, that's it. You're not the headmaster here. I will phone the real headmaster. He will tell you. While he does that and we stand by, looking amused, we hear sirens in the background coming closer and closer. At that point, we did not know obviously, but I will tell you now so that you understand everything. Upon entering the chemistry classroom, a pupil ran into his teacher carrying some acids. The acids fell to the floor and soaked both the pupil's and the teacher's shoes. So they called an ambulance for chemical burns. This kind of emergency enables the ambulance drivers to just mow through anything in their way to get to the patients, no concerns for the damage. So the ambulance arrives, the driver sticks his head out of the window and screams, "Remove that car!" Driver does not move, so his car gets run over by the ambulance. My headmaster calmly calls the police and explains what happened. Right as they arrive, the ambulance comes back, runs over the car yet again, and leaves. Driver was speechless the entire time. Driver needed to pay for the damages on the ambulance, no reimbursement for his car. The pupil and the teacher are okay. We teach everyone how to react to this kind of situation, so the other pupils did the right thing, got some gloves on, cut the shoes off the feet and held them under running water. They both have some scars on their feet, but they very well could have lost their feet if the ambulance had argued with the driver. The next one is titled, No, You Don't Know Him. I work at an arcade. About 2/3 of our games give tickets which you can exchange for prizes. On a busy weekend I was working the register, selling game tokens and ride tickets. On the other side of my station is the redemption area, and one of my coworkers, called Skylar, was working down there getting people their prizes. The customer Skylar was helping wanted a prize worth 4,000 tickets. We have a pretty fair rounding policy regarding tickets and prizes, and if you are going for a prize that size, we will usually spot you the extra tickets if you are within 50 to 100 of the price, but a lot of it depends on how courteous the customer is. Well, this guy had a major attitude for a start. Definitely not the kind you would want to be generous to. And he only had 1,200 tickets for a 4,000 ticket prize. Skylar was very calm the first dozen times he explained that the price was out of their price range and tried to suggest other options. But as the guy continued to raise his voice and behave in a very entitled manner, he had one of our ticket-saving cards, which a lot of people think gives them special status, but spoiler alert, it doesn't. So Skylar began getting frustrated. Finally, after about 15 minutes of this back and forth, Skylar snapped. "Sir, I'm not giving you 2,800 tickets for free." The guy went red in the face. "You had better give me that price. We have been here for hours playing and spent a lot of money. We are VIP members and you have to round us up." "Sir," Skylar continued, still visibly irritated, "if that is the price you want, you can save your tickets for next time and continue to work towards it. I cannot give it to you when you don't even have half the tickets it costs." Sensing this interaction was not about to end with the result he wanted, the guy pulled out his trump card. "You're going to be sorry for this. I know your boss." The tension and frustration in Skylar's body language evaporated. His lips curled upwards into a gleeful grin. "Oh yeah?" he said in a bright tone. "I know my boss too." Skylar paused for a moment for effect, just to give the guy a moment before he let him in on the joke. "He is my uncle." The dude blanked. He paled a little and just stared at Skylar for a moment. Finally, "Your boss is your uncle?" he asked in a shaky voice. "Yes," Skylar repeated. "The owner, Greg, is my uncle." Another pause. The guy frantically recalibrated, coming up with a new story. My coworker knows your uncle." "Really?" Not an actual question. The BS alert is activated. "What's your coworker's name?" Now, if you're going to make up a fake coworker to threaten a 20-something into complying to your insane demands, please at least be creative and/or believable. Don't be like this genius who after 10 seconds of humming and hawing gives the spectacular answer of Bob. Skylar barely suppressed a snicker. Well, I don't know a Bob, and I'm positive Greg does not know Bob either. I hope the 4,000 ticket prize the dude could have easily bought online that he didn't get in the end was worth becoming a legendary laughing stock in our store. The next one is titled Bad Idea Lady. Delivered home heating oil for my dad for many years. We did not do furnace or boiler work. We were not licensed to do furnace or boiler work. If you ran so low on fuel your pilot went out, that was on you to get it relit. Our policy was if you did not have an account set up, you paid in cash upon delivery. If you had a fuel voucher, you needed to tell us before delivery because we had to verify the voucher with the issuing agency, and this was clearly stated on the voucher itself and clearly stated when the order was placed. I do a delivery to a first-timer and go in to get payment expecting cash or a check. Get hit with, "You are not going to relight my furnace?" After a long explanation on my part and much haranguing on their part, they tried to play the "I know the owner" card and tell me they are going to have to get me fired. Then I shifted back to payment and they handed me the voucher. I told them I cannot take the voucher because it has not been verified and I needed cash or a check. This started the "I know the owner" again and that they were going to have me fired before I got back to the shop. Yeah, I really think that will happen, lady. Now, my father went by his middle name professionally, but anyone who knew him knew his actual first name, so I asked what is the owner's name. They responded with his middle name. I asked, "Are you sure?" And they doubled down on how they knew him for years and knew his family. I then asked, what are his kids' names? And that stopped them in their tracks. I showed her my dad's name on the bill and pointed out the last name. I then showed her my ID and said, "See, the last names match." I need cash or a check. They tell me they only have the voucher. I tell them I have to follow the agency's protocol for vouchers and it needs to be approved before delivery or they won't pay the voucher and we are not giving them the fuel oil. We now have two options. They pay me in cash or a check. I call the police for theft of service. Your choice. They came up with cash. I got the "you're a horrible company in person" spiel as I was leaving and the "I'm never going to use you again" spiel too. Now there are only 3 companies that do home fuel in that community. I red flagged the name and address in our book and called the other 2 companies to find out that they've already been flagged as no deliver in their books for the same reason. A voucher does not have much value if your asshat behavior has resulted in no one delivering you fuel. The next one is titled, "I own this car." A few weeks ago, I had a craving for the kind of comfort food that gives cardiologists nightmares and might be slightly radioactive. Naturally, I went to the grocery store to get the various bits of food and microwavable food substitutes. I completed my purchase and headed to the car. I was parked next to the cart return and I paid no attention to the guy standing by my front bumper because people are always walking between cars in that area. As I opened the back door to toss my frozen food grade plastics in the back seat, the guy jumped a little and said, "This is your car? I thought this was my buddy's car." I did not think much of this because my car is a black Impala and there always seems to be at least 3 other identical cars in every parking lot I visit. I reply with a, "Yep, you will have to keep looking." And just then he sees his buddy and calls out to ask which car they came in because he thought they came in mine. His buddy gets an exasperated look and points at the white Suburban parked next to me. It is 2:30 in the afternoon, so I decide to assume he's easily confused instead of on drugs. I still hurried up to get in my car, all the same anyway. And ripe stars, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you still cannot get enough of my content, then I would highly suggest to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will soon show up in the left corner of the screen. In addition, I would really appreciate it if you could not only subscribe to the channel but also turn on the bell notifications, which you can do by clicking on the little bell icon right next to the subscribe button. This will help my channel tremendously and this will make sure that you don't miss any of my videos. Furthermore, if you want to see additional ripe content that I don't post on YouTube, then I would suggest to head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more than 50 exclusive videos that you will not see anywhere else. Thank you so much for your amazing daily support and I hope to see you again tomorrow.